Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And on behalf of Mayor Borer and her administration, welcome to the city's Small Business Grant Program ARPA Fund presentation. I'm Steve Fontana, the city's Director of Economic Development. And over the course of the next half hour or so, my colleague Olivia Basanti, as well as a colleague of ours, Sarah Goss from UHI Advisors, is going to be presenting the information to you that's very exciting and interesting and informative to us, which is how we, the city, can help small businesses throughout West Haven to leverage ARPA funds to help improve their businesses. So we're going to talk about a lot of things. There's going to be a lot of information, but please be patient. Don't worry. We'll go over everything. We'll have a Q&A at the end. We'll be able to get back to you with other information. We'll be posting the stuff on our website. And bottom line is we want to help you. We want to help you apply for these funds and gain access to them. So please be patient. Like I said, a lot of information, but it's an exciting opportunity for a lot of small businesses in West Haven, and we're looking forward to helping you. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Olivia and to Sarah. They're going to walk through the presentation over the next half hour or so, and then we'll be happy to do some Q&A. Olivia?
Great. Thank you, Steve. Sarah, if you want to go to the first slide. All right, so this is just an overview of what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the grant program and then the actual requirements for you to receive funding. Then we're going to do an overview of the application. It's really just screenshots of what the application looks like, but this is going to help you understand what you need to gather by the deadline. And at the end, we're going to do a Q&A where we'll go through the chat, address any questions that we can answer, and then we'll talk about some next steps and what may happen after award. Sarah, next slide. Okay, and we did just get an introduction from Steve Fontana. He is our Economic Development Director. He's new to the city. He's been such a pleasure to have, and he is so excited about this program. My name is Olivia Basanti. I am the city's grant writer. I helped put this program together. And then also on the line, we have Sarah Goss from UHY. Sarah, if you want to chime in, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Olivia. Yes, my name is Sarah Goss. I am a grants consultant with UHY Advisors. Our firm has been hired by the City of West Haven to help administer their American Rescue Plan Act funds, or ARPA funds. And this particular grant opportunity is part of the total ARPA funds that the city received from the federal government. And we will be assisting the city throughout this process. We'll be assisting with reviewing any applications submitted, as well as providing assistance or guidance to the grantees as needed throughout the process.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. You can go to the next slide. All right, so again, as an overview, this is our small business grant program. This is funded by ARPA funds, so we are adhering to federal regulations. This is public money, so a lot of the regulations you might hear tonight in the required documents, it's coming from that. It's because we're using federal funds that came through during the pandemic, and we just have to make sure we're adhering to all of those requirements, which means you as applicants need to adhere to those requirements as well. So the funds are allocated into two categories. Category 1 is facade improvements. This is for restoration of your business front. COVID mitigation is category 2. This will apply for HVAC systems, outdoor dining and patio space, as well as new windows. And this is really to mitigate the spread of COVID and other airborne illnesses. All right, next slide, Sarah. You can skip this one. Right, so these are the business eligibility requirements. This is how you're going to determine if you, your business, your property, you might be a property owner, would be eligible. So the first requirement is that you are located in the city of West Haven, and you should have no more than 50 employees. This is really geared towards small businesses, so we picked 50 as a good number, and your business should have under 50 employees to be eligible. Again, those are the two categories that are eligible for funding. So when you're filling out your application, you will identify if you're doing facade improvements or a COVID mitigation project, and your project will be evaluated under those categories. Businesses do have to demonstrate that they have not received funding in the past for the same program. And similarly, if you've done work like this in the past, maybe you just finished a project that would be eligible, it is not eligible under this program. It has to be something you have not yet done and then applying for money to complete the project. The business must either own the property or have a lease through 2026. That's really important. And the 2026 is because of the ARPA deadlines. These are federal regulations about when the money needs to be spent by, and that happens to be in 2026. So we want to make sure that those businesses are going to be operating out of that space through 2026. Leased properties, again, you'll have to provide your lease, and then a property owner will provide something like a deed to prove that they do own the property and they are up to date on taxes. Sarah, you can go to the next slide. Okay, again, you have to be in good standing with the City of West Haven, so that's proof that you do not owe any taxes, and you'll get a letter of good standing from the Department of Revenue Service. There is a document on the webpage, which I've sent that link in the chat, and I'll send it again at the end, that shows you how to obtain that letter. No outstanding litigations or liens, and the project must comply with city building and zoning standards. This is another thing I really want to highlight because we want you to reach out to us, right? If you think your program may or may not fall under those guidelines, you're not sure, please reach out to us and we will run it by our staff at City Hall, make sure the program is eligible, and just make sure that what you're doing, the design you're proposing, fits into those guidelines. We want to help you. We want to make this super easy. And anything related to outdoor dining, decks, like patio spaces, again, has to be permitted by the Planning and Zoning Department. And we have staff from the Planning and Zoning Department who's going to be reviewing applications. So we don't want you to feel like this is, super intimidating and you don't know where to start. Just reach out to us and we'll let you know, especially like where your business is located, if it's something that can work within those guidelines. Next slide. Okay. These are the eligible uses of funds. So as I mentioned, there's 2 categories. Each category has these eligible uses. Category 1, which is facade improvements, the eligible projects will be storefront and exterior improvements to the facade, doors, awnings, painting, signage attached to the facade, siding and brick appointing, and exterior lighting attached to the facade. If you're wondering what a facade specifically is, because I know it can be a little bit confusing, it is the frontward part of your space, whether you're leasing or owning, and any of these improvements have to be affixed to it. So it has to be a capital improvement of sorts, unless you're doing signage. But again, attached to the front of the building. The goal of this category is really to beautify West Haven, bring a new vibrant center to our city, and that's why we're focused on the facade. It's where your customers enter your business 99% of the time. Category 2 is COVID mitigation. Eligible projects under this category would be new windows, HVAC installation and upgrades, outdoor dining, and patio space. And for all of these projects, no matter what it is you're proposing, you can be awarded up to $10,000 for the projects. Next slide, Sarah. Okay, non-eligible use of funds. Now I want to stress the previous slide, that is what projects, those are the projects that are eligible for funding. This is just some of the things we've commonly seen, we've gotten some questions about, so I want to highlight them. They are not eligible for funding. That would include neon signs, improvements in the rear of the buildings. If you think what I mentioned about facade, it really should be the front of your building, the entry point to your business if you're street side. Interior improvements other than HVAC, so I don't know, reupholstering benches inside of your business is not going to be eligible. Roofing is not eligible, and removal of architecturally significant features. This probably won't apply to a lot of you, but if you know that your building is a historically significant property, you can't remove balusters or something that's been designated a part of that. Any other improvements not included may be deemed ineligible, but your best bet is to stick explicitly to the projects that I just outlined in the previous slide. Next slide, Sarah. Okay, grants will not exceed $10,000. You may be awarded up to $10,000. That's our cap per project. So if the project you are requesting is less than $10,000, that's no problem. Still submit and we'll see what we can award. If it's over $10,000, you will just have to specify and understand that you will only be awarded up to 10. We're not requiring that the applicant contribute any funds, any additional funds to secure an award. This is a cash grant. There's no reimbursement. It's a true cash award to your business. The grants will require a contract between the city and the grantee. The city will handle the heavy lift of drafting that contract, but it is something you would be required to sign in order to secure the funding and start work on your project. The project does have to be completed within 6 months of contract execution. So like I said, we're going to do the heavy lift with the contracting. We're going to get it to as quickly as we can. Once that's signed by the city and by you as an awardee, that is when that time kind of starts. Awards will be paid 50% upfront. So if you are awarded $5,000, you will get $2,500 upfront, and then the remaining balance you will have to put forward, and then the city will reimburse you once we can verify that the work has been completed and that all of the required documentation has been submitted. There's a few post-award documents that we're going to talk a little bit about. I think Sarah can probably hit on a couple of them. One of them being like insurance requirements. Once we have that documentation in, we will be able to reimburse the remaining balance of the grant. All work being done must require at least 2 quotes from a licensed contractor or vendor. Quotes obtained must be for identical goods or contracted services. And this is basically just so we know that the number you're proposing for your grant award is tied to the opinion of a professional contractor. Next slide, Sarah. Okay. So this is the application deadline. The application deadline is July 15th. That is coming up quickly. So I want to emphasize again, we are here. We're ready to answer any of your questions. It's really important that you get all of the materials in by the 15th. Better to ask if you say, I don't know where to find this form. We're going to show you a checklist of forms in a little bit. But if you don't know where to find something, just ask us. We will help you locate it because incomplete applications will not be evaluated. The materials can be obtained on the city website. That is the link. I will send it again in the chat in a few minutes. And the applications should be mailed to businessgrants@westhaven-ct.gov. This is your any and all information point. So if you have questions, please reach out to that email. I will be monitoring it. We will have a team ready to answer questions for you. And that is also where you will send your applications. If you do need to submit a paper application, I understand some people are not great with computers and it can be super overwhelming when you have all those documents. That is no problem. You can submit a paper application to me. I am located on the 3rd floor in the grants office of City Hall, and I'm there generally speaking 9 to 5. If I'm not, someone will be there to receive your application and give you a little receipt type, letting us know that we did receive it before the grant deadline. Anything, again, submitted after the deadline will not be considered, and anything incomplete will not be evaluated. Next slide, please, Sarah. All right. Now we're going to get into the application. So I'm not going to go over this in exhaustive detail because I think it is a little bit clear here what we're asking. So this is screenshots of the actual application. This is on our city website, and this is what you'll be filling out and submitting to us when you are requesting funds. So as you can see, we have the 2 categories. You'll have to select which category you're applying for, and then just give us a bunch of information, pretty standard, talking about your business, address, who we should contact if we do have a question or if we do need to get in touch with you about the award, email address, your tax identification number, and then your UEI number. So I believe it is on the next slide that we'll talk a little bit about the UEI number. This is something that is required by the federal government in order to use federal funds. And though they're coming from the city, they're originating from the federal government. And Sarah's going to talk to you guys a little bit about how you obtain that number because it can be a little confusing and daunting, but it's actually quite simple. Sarah?
Thanks, Olivia. So the UEI number, for those of you who have never heard about it or don't have one, if you've never applied for or received federal funding, it is required, as Olivia mentioned, because technically the funding is federal governmental funding that will be paying these grants and paying for your upgrades and improvements and projects. This guide in the webinar, we'll also post instructions on the city website as well as being right here in the webinar presentation PowerPoint. But in order to obtain the UEI number, And let me just back up a little bit before I get too far ahead. The UEI number is assigned by the federal government. It's similar to how the government assigns you a tax ID number or an EIN number, but it's not your tax ID number. The purpose is, like we said, to identify eligible businesses who can receive federal grants, awards, and contracts that are, paid with federal funds. And since this grant, like we mentioned, is federal funding, if your business does receive an award, your business is technically being funded by the federal government and thus needing this UEI number. Here on the instructions, you will register on a website called sam.gov. Number one here, make sure you are on the official federal website, sam.gov. If you are being requested to submit payment or pay for some sort of registration fee, you are on the wrong website. There are some other commercial websites out there that try to assist, where you can obtain your UEI number. Please do not pay any money for this. Go to the official governmental website. Make sure you're on the right website. There's also a link to a video if you need assistance. We provided the link in number 2 here. The one thing I do want to make mention of, which will save you a lot of time and effort, is there are 2 different ways to obtain a UEI. If you look at number 5 here, it will tell you can either do a complete entity registration or simply request a UEI number. Avoid the first one at all costs. You do not want to do a complete entity registration. That is a very cumbersome and lengthy process. So all you need to do is simply request your number, it's a simple process. You'll register for UEI, you'll fill out a few points of information, and within a few days, you'll receive your UEI number. If you've done the wrong process, the full registration, it could take weeks. And please make sure you are only requesting the UEI number only. One additional point is that your UEI registration, please ensure that your entity name that you're registering for your UEI matches exactly with the entity name. You're registered with the IRS for your EIN or tax ID, as well as your entity name that you're filling out and submitting with your W-9 form for this application. Your entity name is very important. It must match in all documents in all respects, so we can ensure that the city is funding the appropriate organization and the appropriate entity name.
Great. And one more thing on the UEI number, that document that we just had on screen is available on the city's website. And as Sarah mentioned, you only need to request a UEI number. That is something that can be done and returned. You can get the number pretty quickly, but I do want to stress this is something you should do as soon as you can. The deadline is approaching, and we'd really like people to get a head start on that because, like I said, questions may come up, and I will gladly coach you through it if you need help. So just let me know. Reach out to us at Business Grants. Yeah, I'll go back over the email. I can't think of it right now. Okay, sorry. So yes, these are the categories and the eligible projects, and this is part of the application. You'll check off specifically what you are applying for. Next slide, Sarah. And again, this is a screenshot from the application. So you'll have to go over the current zoning where your business is located, the anticipated start date of your project. You want to keep in mind that 6-month deadline when you're filling this out, but you can just input a start date of September 1st, I would say is a pretty safe bet. We're going to be awarding applications August 15th. So for now, do all of your start dates as September 1st. Through the next 6 months, or it could take less, whatever it is, but it does have to be completed in 6 months. The total cost of improvements, this should be a number you pull from those quotes that we mentioned earlier. You are required to get 2 quotes, so the total cost should come from either of those quotes, the middle of the 2 quotes, and that'll just let us know what your total project cost is and how much of that you're requesting to be grant funded. And these are just some narrative questions. Sorry, Sarah, if you could just go back. These are just some narrative questions we are evaluating when we look at your application. It is just going over how you intend to separate business funds for this project versus your operating. We're not asking you to do, paragraphs on paragraphs. Just keep it really simple and straightforward. Next slide. And this is a list of additional documents. This is also available. All of this is available now on our city site. These are some documents you will submit with your application. We have some of the ones I just want to make sure I hit on are the tax assessor card, the proof of property ownership in the lease is super important. We need to know right off the bat if you own this property or you are leasing this property. If you are leasing it, you do need to provide proof that the property owner has allowed or is permitting your application to be sent in, the project to be done. Let's see what else we can hit on. Yep, photographs of the existing condition of the property. These just help us get a better understanding of what you're trying to change. So if you could submit those with your application, that's great. That helps us out a lot. The proposed project budget, this is again going to come off those quotes we're requiring, the UEI registration. And I'm not going to read all of these to you guys, but yeah, these are the basics. And if you have any questions about any of them, again, I can't stress it enough, please reach out. Next slide. And this is the end page. There are some certifications at the top. This is just letting you know that the city considers these public records. The application is approved for funding by the city, then you would be required to execute the grant agreement. So that's another important part. As I said, these grants do result in a contract between the city and you or your business. So you would be required to uphold that, and you should not be submitting any false information. I think that goes without saying, but you have not, this is you certifying you have not submitted any false information. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to do a little question and answer. As I mentioned in the beginning, everyone is muted. So if you have any questions, please send them in the chat, and I'm going to be kind of working through that and answering the questions as they come in. So if you have any questions, now is the time to send them to us. And this is a little bit about the application process on what happens after you send your application to us. So the application is first going to be evaluated by UHY. UHY, as Sarah mentioned, has been hired to help us navigate these federal guidelines. So they're going to be the first eyes on these applications to ensure that it is fully eligible under the federal guidelines that are tied to this pot of money. After that, it will go to the city's evaluation committee. This is a committee we put together of city employees. There are some members of the Economic Development Commission on it as well, who will start evaluating the grants as they come in. And then we will get back to you on August 15th, on or about August 15th, with an award determination. The contracting phase will happen soon after that. We're going to work on queuing up all of these agreements in the meantime so that we can roll those out pretty quickly. But we will be in contact with you, either us or UHY will be in contact with you to work through that process. And again, execution of projects should be done within 6 months. And the payments that will be doled out, the original upfront payment and then the end stage reimbursement, those will all flow through our ARPA committee. That is just by design. That's the way the city has set up our expenditure of ARPA funds. So you will understand that process. We'll have to go through a public meeting where they approve all the invoices. And again, that is our email, businessgrants@westhaven-ct.gov. Got it this time. It's a bit of a mouthful, but that is our email. I'm going to send it in the chat again. And I do see 2 questions. So just give me 1 second to pull those up. Can a grant be used for a combination of facade and COVID improvements? If the grant falls under let me rephrase that. Yes, you need to specify how that's going to work. It needs to be under $10,000. It needs to be a separate application. So if you want to send me your email as well, I can reiterate that in a little bit clearer terms. I just want to make sure for our ARPA guidelines that that's okay. Hello, my business is a mobile food trailer. How can I reap the benefits of this grant? Unfortunately, Melvin, that is not an eligible business. We are looking for businesses that have affixed storefronts that are actually operating out of a brick and mortar setting. Is this program eligible for drywall? Not interior improvements. So if this is I would assume drywall is interior. That would not be an allowable use of funds. The HVAC is the only eligible use for interior improvements. So if you were going to upgrade, replace the HVAC system in your business, that would be eligible, but just drywall replacement does not sound eligible to me. Send another message if you think I'm misunderstanding, but yes, interior improvements are not eligible. Any other questions from anyone?
One thing, Olivia, if I may interject, I don't think we touched on was the total pool of funding that the city has allocated for this grant being $400,000, up to $400,000. They have set aside and earmarked for these grants. So technically that could be up to 40 businesses receiving the full award if eligible. However, a lot of times the full 10,000 is not requested, or there may be things in the application where a full award may not be granted for various reasons. So there could be partial awards as well.
Yes, and that's kind of one thing I wanted to stress as well as the timeline. I know it might seem like it's a little far off, but you got to remember this is a holiday week. So trying to get those documents together, we're going to try and get everyone, processed accordingly, but there is a finite pool of money for this. And then I see a question from Gladys. Will it cover another front entrance? Yes, that sounds perfectly eligible. That is in facade improvement to the front of your business. Yep, that sounds eligible to me. And if you want to elaborate a little bit more, I'm sure I could give you a little more guidance, but face value sounds very eligible to me. Okay, thank, but I never see the Melvin, if you want to send me your email in the chat, I will have someone reach out to you. We have some grants through the CDBG program that might be eligible. It's outside of my department, but I can try and direct you in the right place. Just send me your email and I'll shoot you a message right once we get off, and I'll try and link you up with someone. Will the grant work for transportation businesses? Yes, if they are located in West Haven, based in West Haven, there's a storefront and there's under 50 employees. There's no limitation on what kind of business. It just has to be a small business and in West Haven, as well as falling under all those other requirements for taxes and the rest of it. Would we be able to upgrade our awning sign? Yes, that sounds perfectly eligible to me. Any other questions? You're welcome, Sean. Is this grant only for existing businesses or new businesses? It does have to be an existing business, just because of the timeline of these projects, right? Like, we're looking to get these done within 6 months to meet all the ARPA guidelines. I don't think that a new business will not be eligible to apply. You would have to have an existing lease. You'd have to be up and going at this point. Just want to know if painting qualifies for the, Karen asked, I just want to know if painting qualifies for the entrance bathroom, handicap bathroom. That is an interior improvement, so that is not going to be eligible. Based on the information given, I don't fall into that category. Yeah, again, I totally understand. If you want to send me your email, that would be great. Or you can email us at Business Grants and we'll direct you to some other possible programs. Right now, this is the program that the city is administering. But I will reach out to you guys and try and link you up with some other departments. We did just have a small business forum where we had some really great presenters go over resources available to all different businesses. So Steve and I will put our heads together and help you get matched up with a really good resource. In regards to the timeline, the signage would have to be installed by December of 2024. Just wondering in the event of supply chain delays. Not December. So I'm thinking you guys will be awarded, in August of 2024, and then you would have 6 months from that date. to complete the project. I know that things do happen, but that is the requirement as of now. Is that 6 months? No, that would put us at about February of 2025. My math is correct. Okay, I see you guys sending your emails. I'm just going to jot those down. You're welcome, Kim. And how can we contact you to get more information? I'm going to drop the email again in the chat just so everyone has it. Sarah, after this webinar ends, will we still have access to the chat to be able to pull people's emails?
Yeah, we could do that.
We can do that,
Okay.
yeah.
Great. All right. So I will make sure if anyone else wants to send their email, that's just good for us to have. But again, the actual information, the link to this webinar and the PowerPoint itself will all be uploaded to the city site in the next couple of days. So I'm just gonna send that one more time so everyone has it. All right, do we have any other questions before we close out tonight? I know it's getting a little bit late, but I think we're right on time.
Well, it seems like this has been a huge success, unless I'm mistaken. We had, by my count, as many as 37 small business owners and businesses attending, which is fantastic. I think Olivia and Sarah did a great job walking through. Hopefully you all are excited about this opportunity and you understand that while there's a lot of paperwork that's involved, the payoff could be huge. And obviously we're here to help. So please do reach out to Olivia at the email address that she put in the chat. Again, businessgrants@westhaven-ct.gov. Please do, if you feel more inclined to do so, feel free to stop in at City Hall. That's not necessarily the advised way to reach out to us, but we would be happy to see you in person if you'd like to sit with us in person to go over some of these items. If you know people who perhaps English is not their first language, please do feel free to connect them with us or to serve as a liaison between us and them. We do have a limited ability, I think, to provide translation capacity, especially for Spanish. So don't see your situation as an obstacle. See it as an opportunity. See it as a chance to meet us, to work with us, and get your application in. As Sarah and Olivia indicated, we do have a sort of fixed amount of funds, but we are interested in trying to help move as many projects forward as possible. So we are looking forward to interacting with you over the next 2 weeks. It will be a short 2-week period. As Olivia said, we do have a holiday, an important holiday in between, but we're looking forward to working with you. So please do reach out to us by the email address or come in as an alternative. We look forward to helping you complete your applications and have them in 2 weeks from today. So with that, I'll turn it back to Olivia and Sarah for any closing thoughts.
Yep, I think you summed it up perfectly. And thank you both for being here tonight and walking this through with me. And again, I'm going to take everyone's emails once we get off. I'm going to get a copy of the chat and I will reach out to some of you who asked for some connection to other resources. And we will get back to you as soon as we can. But again, please feel free to reach out. We are here. We're at your service, and we really want you guys to take advantage of this really exciting opportunity. So thank you so much for coming, and I hope you have a great night.
Thank you, everyone. Until next time, take care.